Welcome in. I don't know if this audio is correct. Let me see. Oh no, that's right. Okay. That is Pigeon on the screen. Hi, little girl. She gets cuddly in the early daytime. So today, we're just going to be doing some more sketching. Hopefully, if Pigeon will move. Little baby girl. Little baby girl. You're in Mama's way. What are you doing? You aren't the star of the show today. Well, I guess this will give me an opportunity. I don't know what I plan on drawing yet. I never do. If you're stopping by for a listen, come here, baby girl. Ah, what? Now you're interested in what's going on? Huh? I'm gonna need you to move. You know what? You know what I really want to draw? Because, Tyson's nickname is Tyson the Bison. I want to draw at least one bison. One beautiful bison. Look at this interesting picture of a bison. It's looking more like a water buffalo. They're kind of interesting. Their skeletal structure. European bisons are very different than. Oh, I guess that's the picture that was a European bison more than a American bison. I don't know. I try to avoid using browns, but I always find pictures that involve using a lot of browns. I can move this someplace more comfortable. That works better. That's what we did last time. This little pigeon here. And our other little page. There, I was just swatching. Let's just start with page number 2. I'm one of those people that just opens up the book, lets it fall where it may, and continues from there. I need a pencil. And I always just use a very generic mechanical pencil for drawing. And hopefully we can get the camera to behave. I don't understand why I have so much problems with focusing it lately. So bisons are fun. I don't know if I should try to make a lot of. Here we go. We'll just go in with it. Okay, so they have this big hump. I think that's the biggest feature. And then these big old heads. Big old heads. And then they kind of have the smaller hips. And then they kind of have a big old round belly. But they got this wool, which I think is the most interesting part. That leads down to their little hoofies. And this kind of continues down like that, right? American bison. And then their horns. One of my favorite Pokemon is Tauros, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of a bison. Pigeon, what the heck are you doing? That's just a generic bison type nose. And they have kind of a beard too. He almost looking like a goat head over here. Ma'am, can I help you? Sometimes she just likes to be involved. So I do want a little bit of, I would say orange. I wish I had like an orange red in these colors. Let's see what color this is. That's kind of a good orange, I think. I would really like a more reddy brown, but we're not going to get that here. Oh, you know what? This isn't too far off from a red-orange. So I have an idea. Oh, that's really orange, actually. I have one more brown color I want to look at. So that's that bleh kind of brown color. We're not a big fan of it. I think this will be our main brown. No, that's still not good. I need more reddish tones. So I'm really disappointed that I don't have that. But, you know, you work with what you have, limited palettes. This is kind of a more purple brown. But I think that's going to be our main color here. And then maybe we'll work with these 4 colors. Also, we're working with the Ahuhu watercolor brush pens. I like them for sketching. I tend to use watercolor. That is my preference. We got some water here. And my little sponge for some quick cleaning. This little yellow sponge is great, especially in any travel kit, because you can just wipe your brush off like that. Also helps to absorb excess liquid. I tend to take my watercolors on the go. Don't eat my sponge, please. So how do we want to start this? I think I want to start with kind of the darker browns. This one doesn't seem like it has a whole lot of color left to it, but that's all right. And we're just going to kind of smear it around. That, I think, is the correct term for it, smearing it around. Not as dark as I'd want it, but that's all right. We just kind of want to get a base color in. The thing with this paper, it's not watercolor paper, so building up colors doesn't work as well. We do want to make sure. Ugh, I wish I had something darker. I'm going to look for something darker. Maybe even a darker red. Like, this is definitely kind of what I want, but like not quite what I want. I guess I could have like a palette to where I could like mix them up and create the darker color that I want, but it's not that big of a deal. These are just quick sketches. Yes, yes, that's what I want. So we're just going to add some more of that in. And you got to be kind of quick with this stuff because it does. These pens aren't meant to be Well, I guess it's a good thing. They kind of, I want to say solidify. They kind of get stuck. Get stuck? I don't know the technical term for this. I'm just blabbing away and I don't know what I'm talking about. But become fixed? They become fixed. I'm going to kind of push some of this color up into the red too. Because we're looking a lot more red than we wanted to look. We're a bison. We're a bison. So, his head is also going to be like the darker brown. I think like the darkest part of him is actually right here. So just kind of thinking about we're going to have to add some more color here. And then the darker. I'm a bison. Am I? Maybe. Ignore some of the comments I make. They're not nonsensical. Now, what? We wanted to do like more orange up here. Right? And more of the lighter browns. I think that was the brown that I didn't like. And then we're gonna start to head into some darker colors. So I think we'll have some of the red mixed in. And then some of the darker brown here. We'll see how these mix. I don't know. I've not ever done it this way. Quite like this. Okay. May have been a bit too much of the orangey color. So we may add some more of this up into it. And then add some more of the darker brown near the bottom. It'll help if I let it dry a little. This is a mess. I know it is. I can see it with my eyeballs. But this is more of... Ooh, that yellow is bright. That yellow is intense. This is more of a painterly way to draw, is what we would call it. There's different ways that you can really go about drawing. We can have those perfect, neat little outlines, right? Or we can start with the color. I don't really know what a buffalo tail looks like. Doesn't it have kind of like a... My reference doesn't have a buffalo tail, but I think they have kind of the little puff on the end. So we're going to take our own creative freedom with that because, you know, no one's watching. This is a mess. Let me tell you what. This is a mess. I just wish I had the colors that I wanted. But yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit of this to kind of compete with that red. I don't want him to be so orange either. So then we're going to go back and add more of the dark brown. And there is cat hair. I noticed there is definitely cat hair here. The markers don't do as well as I would like when the paper's not completely dry. Oof, what a mess. What a mess, y'all. What a mess. This really kind of went badly. Here we're just kind of thinking about where the darkest colors are. Right? And then where our lighter tones are. And I did, I guess, in a sense, get to the yellow that I wanted up here. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Now, sometimes things don't go quite as perfectly planned as you would like. I think we're gonna do like some yellow prairie grass. And that's just to kind of not really to represent the prairie grass, but kind of like to block out some color. Again, this is just a sketchbook. We're not making pretty pictures here. I mean, we can make pretty pictures, but our goal isn't to make big finished pieces. Our goal is for learning. And I think a lot of people miss that step. It's the little steps that you gotta take when you're learning how to draw. You got to experiment. It's interesting how their fur on their head kind of all goes in the same general direction. And then here it kind of goes down into this bit. I've kind of lost, I think I put his nose right here, but we're going to really, I think, change it more to right here. This is going to be his nose and his little mouth, like that. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And his eye. And then this is really where his woolly bits kind of go before he turns into a smooth bison. And then we got longer fur down here. And we're going to do a few little marks here because his little wool falls in some different directions. And again, it's almost like they go up this way, his fur, which is interesting. This goes this way, but this seems to go up this way. And some more lines down here. All right, and then he has his little round belly. He is a boy, but we are leaving that little detail out, if you know what I mean. And then his slick, smooth legs. That will probably, not really sure what a hoof of a bison looks like. Go back. I don't want to see this. Okay. A hoof of a bison. Actually, they are kind of like just that. I gave him a little bit of a badunk-dunk there. His hips are kind of defined there. And then his tail that we gave him. And we said we think it just kind of goes off into some furry bits there. Pretty sure. They actually kind of have a little bit that protrudes right there, like a little bony bone. All right. We have lost focus again. I don't know how to keep this from doing that. It's very annoying. This is kind of to help cover up the mess we've made of the hoofs and maybe add some shadow. I don't know what to do about my focus problems. Ooh, this is making a mess. There, we focused. Oh my goodness. So, that was a good mess of a bison. I can't say that I am satisfied with the product, but I feel like really we needed to have more built up higher. So I'm just kind of thinking about that here. Right? I think that would have helped us. and kind of more exaggerated taper. Really, this is kind of straight and then psh, like that. So that kind of helps with the shape a little bit. Yeah. That's a little better. That's a little better. First time drawing a bison! Yay! Can't, you know, it's learning. It may not be great to look at, but if I had to compare it to the bison that we saw in this picture, I would say it's better, right? I'm just joking. I can't say that I've really drawn very many hoofed animals in my life. Come to think of it. Does America have like colorful animals? I feel like they're all kind of blah. North America, I should be more specific. My goal here is to use some colors, but thinking about what colorful animal might actually be in the habitat of a buffalo, I don't think there's any. Hi, Pigeon. What's she doing? There's colorful pigeons. You know what I think of? I think of red-eared sliders. Those are everywhere. I guess I haven't used too many greens. Ow. Pigeon. You're being kind of a pain, honey. They're a lot more green when they're little babies than they are as adults. Unless you count the algae that might be on their backs, right? But we got some good reds, and that's what I want to focus on. And some good yellows. He's cute. I don't think he's an American red-eared slider. I don't know if there's a difference. Red-eared slider's gotta be like the most invasive turtle species. They can kind of put up with a lot. Resilient little guys. I really like him. He's cute. I'm going to be doing this one-handed as Pigeon has decided it's time to sleep in my arms. but I think he'll look nice here. I got some Posca water on my page. So we start with his round shell. His little head. He's got kind of a blocky head. And then he has a lot of flap on his throat. Is that weird to say? He has an arm that goes like this. Kind of goes inward, his little toesies. And then he has his back toesies that are very webbed. And then they have a long tail. Ma'am, get off my keyboard. Get off. I can't see. Get off my keyboard. Come on. Go find you a place to sleep. All right, now we're taking baths right in front of my face. Cat life. Okay. This is, you know what, let's just make him silly as heck. He has such a silly face. I can't hate it. I can't. I gotta make sure that I leave room for his big red ear. Right. That's his main focus. And the shell is gonna be kind of hard. I will say I am absolutely no expert at perspective. So we kind of go like that because this shell part comes up and over. But like not that far. So I don't know if I want to kind of right that way. They kind of and then I guess the split comes right here. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. There we go. And I think everything else is about rightly proportioned here. Well, I won't say proportioned. I can't say that I'm good at proportions either, but where we want it to be, basically. All right. I think we should start with just like overall yellow all over the body. Starting with our lightest colors, right? So I think that's where we'll start. And then we'll just add the green since we're not gonna like do too much with the watercolor. When it comes to the green parts, we're just gonna kind of let it sit as it is. So yellow is gonna be our main color here. And then we'll go in with the details with the greens. And while typically we wouldn't enjoy the mix of the pencil lead, it does kind of help bring down the intensity of the yellow. And then we're going to use a little bit of maybe an oranger yellow to pull out. Ah, that one is mixed with black. Gross. Okay. So yeah, I like that kind of orange. Hi, cutie patootie. We really want, I think this will be the perfect green. Yeah. And then we want one more shade darker green. But like not too dark because he's a bright little guy. He's a bright little guy. And then we want to choose our very intense red. And I think this will be the perfect red. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. We can live with that. Okay. Okay. We're going to let that dry a minute. Because I don't want it to spread too much into the yellow. With it still being a little bit wet. But you see where we're going with this? The yellow, that's our underlying color palette here. I don't know, I'm pretending like I know what I'm talking about. I do art for fun, not because I know what I'm doing, right? But that's how you learn. People get very hesitant to mark up a page, use their art supplies. But without that experimentation, it's going to be very hard for you to grow as an artist, right? So if you feel like you're struggling, just close your eyes and put it down on paper and see what you can do, right? Maybe work with a more forgiving medium. That's all right. It's called mileage, which means you're just gaining experience by applying techniques and learning and using the materials. It doesn't happen instantly. And you can learn all those rules of art, but unless you actually apply them, you're gonna forget them. It's still a little wet, but I think we can be safe to go in now with a bit more. So we're going to start with the brighter green. And it's kind of interesting how this works, because like, we'll start right here on the side where it's easy to see. He's kind of got these little squares. And these little squares that go up into here. So it kind of follows the patterns. Actually, this one should be out here. I don't know. I should have done a little bit better at lining the shell up, but I wasn't going for perfection. All right. And then this kind of continues, actually. This one continues on through the shell. And then we got our green that comes down here. And this is pretty much all dark green. We don't really have much yellow in his feetsies that much, or much of the yellow green. And then this sort of follows his head. But that's not perfect either. Okay, I think we got something here. All right, so that's a general idea of what we're going for. And then we're going to bring this darker line. And that, again, it just kind of follows the shape, but doesn't necessarily have a set way of following the colors. It kind of does its own thing. It's very interesting. These are called painted turtles sometimes, right? Because that totally makes sense. It's like how paint just sort of swirls and mixes. It doesn't necessarily have rhyme or reason to it. Well, I'm sure it probably does more than I realize, but it's not an exact perfect pattern. And I feel like I think I actually need like a darker green to go in as well. I guess it kind of follows that because we need some more green in this. Everything I have is really like blue green instead of the more warm yellow green. Let's see how that might work. Again, not perfect, but perfection is not what we're going for. We're just trying to add more green into the mix. I feel like this actually kind of follows that a little bit more. Building up greens, building up greens. Because he is mainly a green turtle, you know? We got a lot of yellow on here, but the yellow is really underlying. So that looks a little more like what we're going for. But there's still, it's like one more. It's a really brown green is what we're needing. That's really yellow. I know I've seen this color before because I mistaked it for a brown. This might be it. Yeah, that's kind of it. Okay, so I want to kind of I don't want it to be too overpowering. Yeah. Okay, now I think I need some more of this one. Just to help cover up some of the yellow. Because the yellow is a bit intense. We need it to be a bit more green. Okay. Okay. And then, last but not least, the red. And I want a really yellow eye. There we go. There we go. I'm not hating him. We just kind of put a little bit of a background on him. That's just kind of a easy way to separate sketches, just adding a little bit of color block behind them. Some people do like squares or shapes, circles. I'm just kind of a mess. I used to really neatly outline my little things, but I don't know. We're not making finished pieces here. We are learning, we are sketching, we are moving on the paper, right? That is our goal. We'll let him dry a little bit and think about what we might want to draw next. And then we'll just get to an hour. So our next sketch might be our last sketch. think I do want to try to find, again, something a little bit more colorful. Use more color. Birds, I guess, are always colorful. We could go with like a chameleon. Chameleons are probably like one of my least favorite lizards. Just because they don't seem very happy to me. That doesn't make sense. But that might be fun. Chameleon. Ooh, I like his colors. He's got a very easy shape. That might be hard to do though. Panther, chameleon, I think is what we're looking for. Panther, chameleon. Yeah. Hi. You're cute. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we might do next. Let us finish this little turtle guy though. Aw, you cute. We might use some of this black to follow some of these lines. Alright, his shell is the big thing. Ooh. Okay. And then his long tail. Ha! He's cute. He's cute. I can't hate him. And this is a Pigma BB. There was one day that I just went and got a bunch of these little pens on sale. Kind of difficult to make thinner lines with it as much as I would like to. Alright, here we go. Before we turn the page, we have our bison and our little turtle guy. I made these a lot more washed out now that I think of it. These are a lot more heavy concentrated color. Maybe I should do that a bit more. Alright, you should be pretty easy. You're a pretty simple shape. I don't know, we'll start with kind of a bison head. He does kind of have a bison head. And his tail, his curly tail. He has kind of a little thing here, and then it goes here. And I would say this is actually more like this. We kind of go into our hands, and then our other hands come this way. I guess we don't really see them. Okay. And then we have our hips. They're kind of square. So actually they kind of come out like this and then go down like this. And he seems to be grasping onto his own tail, actually. Interesting. So he's got his little stick. His little sticky stick that comes through his tail. However that works. And then his other feetsies are actually here underneath, gripping on. Silly guy, do you realize that you're gripping onto your own tail? It's so silly. So I might need to and then it would probably come up this way, right? Okay. And then he's got a big ol' eye. This is not as high up as I imagine it to be. He don't look like a happy camper. Alright, so what do we want to start with? We might do the yellow again, all underneath. But there's also some green. So I kind of want to do like the green along here. And then the green kind of goes above his eye and up here. And then everything else is kind of big and yellow down here. So we'll start with that, laying down these base colors. And we'll kind of figure it out as we go along. We'll fix his eye. Fix it in post. Maybe that'll help. So we got kind of the red color that we want. What about this blue turquoisey color? It's a very interesting color. That is definitely green. I don't know what I'm thinking. This may be way too dark. We'll see how it looks. Okay, that is actually the color I'm looking for. So that works. Okay. So what do we want to do? We know that his mouth is very yellow right here. He's got good stripes. I'm just adding a bit more solid yellow in some areas. And we kind of need to bring this out a bit more. Now I need an orange. I think this is the orange that we want. Yeah. So we'll start with, he's very, I would say, caricature. We're going to start with this area. And he's got some big bands here. We'll spread that out a little bit. And then hopefully we kind of remember what we're doing here. Just putting in some of the stripes, and then we'll probably go back over these stripes a little bit later. I want to make his foot kind of like that over here. But we got to get kind of the overall orange down here. And I'm just doing this on the areas that I know don't have the blue, because I think we're going to have to place down the blue before we do anything else. And then here's him and his little dummy feet grabbing onto his tail. His tail near the end is like really orange. And then not so much. We got it a little bit spread out here. All right. So I think that's kind of what we want. All right, now let's place this blue. We gotta be careful once we place this blue. We don't want to smear it too much. So kind of a big block here that goes up here. And then we have it kind of makes a Y. And then sort of goes down our belly. We also have a little bit of spots right here. And we'll go up here, here, here. Now I do need a little bit more green in between, so this is going to be kind of difficult. We need more green here, and then more yellow on top. But I don't want to touch that blue too much with what we're doing right here. You know what I think it is that causes this focus problem is I think it is the water on the page causing glare here. I may take another blue. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just build up the blue that I have here. Because it does kind of mixed with the yellow underneath. I see. I see that now. And then maybe we'll just, I want kind of a red brown. Where's all our browns? And you brown? You're very purple. That's all right. Let's do a purple stick. And that'll kind of help, because honestly, we're going to have to come back through here. I see I've budged up right there. I don't know if it's dry enough. It might work. It is overworked. All right, so now that we've got that in, we want to go back in with a orange color. That's highlighter pink. Let me just go back to this color maybe. Is this the color? This is the red. So I do want to make his eye a bit more red, because that is where the most intense red is, right here at his eyeball. And then it kind of comes out here. And then it goes down here. And then he has his stripes that go all the way down here, right? And then the rest I would say is more of the orange color. And then the yellow color. So where else? We have his stripes that we need to redo. And then there is an outline. And we have to wait. This is still very wet right up here. But we do have some more stripes here. Okay. I do want to kind of drag this out a little bit into the rest of him, because he does have more orange than yellow here. And that's red. Let me put down this red. We're done with you. Okay. Go back to the orange. Now, the orange on his legs. And then he has it on his knee as it goes this way and this way, and goes around his little hand. And though there was more blue on his tail, I think we're going to stick with orange stripes here. And then again outlining this blue in the orange. Alright, and I think that it does help that it is a little bit wet still. It gives us an interesting pattern here. And then we had different orange specks around here. All right. I like him. I like him. He's not too bad. He's very interesting. This is obviously not the right thing. Okay. Interesting. We're going to add a little bit of more blue on top. Yeah, okay. All right. I can't completely hate him. And last but not least, we'll try to get more of this purple color. Darken it up a bit. Okay. His little toesy here is going to be a little bit more orange. If I can figure out what to do with the orange. And the end of his tail, which I think is right here, is what that's supposed to be. Is going to be orange. All right. He's something. He's definitely something. Give him a few more moments to dry here. And then we'll outline him. What is he again? He's a panther chameleon. I may do a different pen for outlining, honestly. Alright, I'm continuing to put these watercolors up here. Woo! We typically do micron, and my default is an 8. It's kind of a thicker one. I'm not looking for super thin lines because we're not doing like detailed work. If I did, I would go for a 3 or 0.3 or 0.5. The thing with the smaller ones, I feel like they, you gotta treat them a little bit more light-handedly. I'm not really that person to do so, because their tips do get easily, I wouldn't say ruined, but get used. I want to do, maybe next time, we'll pull out some Posca pens. I've always wanted to kind of work with those a little. Alright, so he's got a very black eyeball. And I think what I'll do, I'll kind of go around this entire thing, but we're gonna do little, and this is where a smaller micron might help, but we're just gonna make a little bit more marks on his eyes here. Oh gosh. So this line kind of goes up, and then that's where his nostril is, and then his little mouth that makes the frowny face. He does have, and I don't want to put too much details here, but he has little scales on his lips, as is very typical for lizards. So I'll just put a few little marks like that. And then a very light outline here. He's got spiky little skin here. And, you know, it's kind of rougher. So I think I'm just going to do some lines that kind of go this way, just to show it's a different skin. We'll put some lines on his shoulder here, his little arm. And his elbow is very just round. He's kind of got little buff legs here. And then there we go. His other arm coming down. Right? And he does actually have little spikiness to his belly too. He has spikiness up here. I'm sure there's just scales. They probably don't actually like hurt. I don't know. I've never pet a chameleon before. They definitely have more spiny spine there. I don't know if I just want to leave the colors. Maybe. Typically I'll go through and I'll outline the colors a little bit more. This is his knee. And then his foot that is wrapped around his own tail. And then his tail coming up and then coming around like such. And then his other little hand on the other side that is holding on to the branch. Okay. There we go. He looks chameleon-y. I do kind of want to use the Posca. Sometimes this Posca works great, sometimes it doesn't. He does have a little bit of white outline. There we go. White outline. And he got some on his lips too. And then he just has some random white spots kind of all throughout him. I don't know if those will translate on camera well, but we'll just go ahead and add some in there. And then he kind of has this streak down his midline. So we'll sort of add that. Don't mean it to be like actually streaky, but interesting. And then just some more details here. Some on his arm. And there is a little bit of white on his eye. All right. That is my man. What do we think? As always, starting off kind of a mess, but ending up a little bit better than we started. All right. I think that will just about finish things up. I enjoyed sketching along. See our other picture here. Just a reminder, our interesting little bison, our little box turtle. That's what we've got today. Thanks for checking us out. If you did happen to do so, appreciate it. And see you next time.